Oh, hello there. Thanks for joining us. In today's episode, you'll find our trio of truculent talkers engaged in a heated debate about Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049. For this episode, the boys decided to record in the grandeur of suburbia. See if you can spot all the wonderful sounds of nature that we can hear in the background as we continue to work through some microphone issues as well. We hope you enjoy, and thank you for your patience.
Welcome to Nerds of the Old Republic, the podcast where we drink and discuss nerdy fiction, and where we're not above shouting obscenities at deceased authors, because fuck you. I'm Adam.
I'm Shaun.
And I'm Mike.
This is episode 4 of season 2. If you can't tell, we've made some mistakes, so I'm trying to get it right here today. This nerdy podcast of ours is so excited to be back. Today we are discussing a Denis Villeneuve movie, Blade Runner 2049. Did I get that right?
You got it.
All right, thank God.
Yes.
There we go.
Ding
That's
that
the
one.
only bell I deserve today, period. Just wipe it out. Of course, that is inspired by the work of, as I call him, PKD, Philip K. Dick. But first, we need your help, fellow nerds. We would love it if more people could hear our beautiful thoughts, our laughter, and maybe some of our sarcastic jokes and obscenities towards people we don't yet know. So, if you could share our podcast wherever you listen with one person, just hit that share button. Every app has a share button. Just hit it. Send it to somebody you know. Maybe not grandma, because we're not safe for work. But
Unless you got
another
a cool
friend.
grandma.
Yeah,
That's
grandma
true,
could
actually.
love that.
Some grandmas are fucking raunchy. That's a great point. So if your grandma's like that, or if you got some other nerdy friends, send us to them, please.
Could be a nerdy grandma out there or two.
That's true. I hate to be stereotypical. I apologize.
It's also a good time to point out that we are recording at an undisclosed third-party location where apparently the lawns need to be mowed at this moment, and the Blue Jays are active.
Well, it is fall here in Western New York, and we nerds thought that we would get outdoors today and enjoy nature. It's a lovely day. There's blue jays singing, and the sun is out, and as you said, people mowing their lawns.
It's almost become a trope of ours to have some sort of random-ass noise in the background.
Yeah.
We had foxes at Shaun's house.
That's right.
We have blue jays here. The lawnmower is the one I'm a little bit miffed with, but I guess I can't control that they're humans as important as I see myself.
But, I gotta say, thank you to the third-party owner of this place.
Yeah, thank you.
This is fantastic.
Friend of the
What a
cast.
Beautiful backyard here, and we were very happy to be here, so thanks for that.
I mean, let's just be honest. We're at Bill Murray's house. Our good old, our friend.
Yeah, friend of the cast. I mean, it was Bill Murray or Snoop. Those are the two labeled friends of the casts. And Snoop
Thanks,
was
Bill.
busy, so
Yes.
We'll be at your house next time, Snoop.
yeah. So if you're not into killing robots, that's okay. Don't leave, because after this episode, we are talking about Cixin Lu's The Three-Body Problem. I'm going to pronounce it differently
Did you
every
look it up
time.
in between
No,
casts?
I'm going to look it differently every time so that I nail it one time.
Scissor King Lou.
Oh, I'm
Ironically,
sorry,
it's
Mr.
going to
Lou.
turn out that Zhu is correct. And
Probably.
Lou is actually like Liu.
I'm sure it
Adam's
is.
command of Mandarin is unparalleled.
Yes.
You know what? I only have the city Mandarin, not the people's Mandarin.
You're not provincial?
No, which probably explains my mistakes here. So that's what we're talking about next. And you know what? It's going to be a Netflix original. So read it before it's cool, and then be a hipster and be like, ugh, yeah, I read that months ago before Netflix said it was cool. So go fuck yourself, right? Or listen to us and pretend you read it. That's also fine. You can cite us. We're authorities in these realms, and then you could, be cool.
Our discussion will be exhaustive, so you'll be able to pass, as if you had read it.
Yeah,
Exhaustive
indeed.
or exhausting?
Exhaustive is the word I went with. And,
I'd say both, though.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should be tired when you're not listening to us. You should be tired of laughing so hard.
And your brain hurts a little bit, so you
Yeah.
need a rest.
Yeah.
Which is why
Great
I'm
points.
so looking forward to this beverage that Shaun brought today.
Oh.
Shaun, what are we drinking today? It's not the norm.
Oh, guys, I think this is becoming a bit of a cast trope where I bring the shittiest beer available at the time.
Don't
And,
sell yourself short. You do a great job.
Although Dragon Milk was good.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I'd like to get back to that again. But we've been talking about craptacular
Mm-hmm.
beers lately, and I'm having a crappy beer renaissance. And I exhaustively labored to try and find some Red Dog. And this shit's hard to come by.
Yeah.
Red Dog, if you're listening, send us a case. We'll
Yeah.
gladly imbibe it.
You mid 30 to 40 something year olds will remember Red Dog for having a Red Dog on the can, and that's all it's known for.
Yeah.
Before Shaun actually introduces the beer, I just want to point out that Shaun has now confessed to working really, really hard to bring us the beer that, like, your completely uncultured uncle just throws in the fucking cooler at the family party without any thought at all.
If it even exists anymore, because I haven't seen it on shelves, and I tried to find it.
Yeah.
So again, Red Dog, if you're listening.
If you exist.
That's right. Get your dogs. So, in fact, I brought something that's a little near and dear to the Buffalonians' heart, as we are Western New Yorkers, and it's a Labatt beer. It's beer. It comes in a black can, and it is called Max Ice.
Indeed. A point for Labatt.
I am excited about this beer.
Something about this beer just said Blade Runner to me. I don't know, but
it's the masculine black with the negative space of the silver can surrounding Max.
That's it, Adam. You nailed it. And just the name Max, I think. When I think of Max, I think of the future.
Yeah.
Everything
Max.
is to the max.
Yeah.
So it's also max alcohol by volume, 8%.
Man.
Yeah.
And we got to drive home after that.
We'll take our time.
Yeah, it's gonna.
We're
be
gonna
a
fill
while.
our bellies.
I will tell you, we used to drink Labatt regular ice, not
Yeah.
Max Ice, in college because it was like, oh, that's the most alcohol. That'll get you drunk.
Oh yeah.
And that was like 5.4, I believe. So
Yeah.
8%'s quite a jump.
if we had had access to Max Ice, college would have been even more productive.
Oh,
I'm
and
sure.
I had to
Indeed.
hold myself back from buying the pounders, and that would have been another epic experience. Maybe at a future cast,
Yeah,
we'll
there you go.
do some pounders. But for now, we've got a 16 fluid ounce, a pint can of Labatt Max Ice. Let's do this.
All right.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Cheers.
Cheers.
Damn.
Oh man.
I'm not even capable of taking a proper sip of this. I just went straight to chugging. That was 2 solid gulps. Right
It's like muscle memory,
That's
just
right.
straight down.
That's right.
Oh yeah, that is as the Canadians would say, biere forte.
Yeah. I'm halfway done. Are you? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, this, honestly, like, so in college, we were Molson people. I'm not sure why. It was just my friends, and they would buy Molson.
Molson's all right.
Yeah, it's fine.
And Molson had those like cool little sayings or whatever written on the can in those days.
They
too.
did. Yeah, they had like the unique, quote unquote, unique cans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's all we bought it for. But Labatt was definitely a close second. Blue was always in the fridge. It's still in my fridge, honestly, as a Buffalonian. It's almost like a patriotic duty, even though it's a Canadian beer. I know they brew it here in Buffalo.
They're super drinkable though. It's
Yeah.
like, in my opinion, way better than a Bud.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a bit more quaffable.
But
Oh,
indeed,
yes,
indeed.
yes. And
Word of the cast. If if you poured this in a pint glass at a boutique like brew house or whatever and said this is a whatever lager or something or other, I'd be like,
Imperial Lager.
Yeah,
You just need
exactly.
to throw the word Imperial on it, and then you
I'd
can
be
have
like,
8%
yes,
alcohol.
this guy, I can taste it. I can taste the maltiness in it and all that blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But it's Labatt and it's in a can and it's called Max Ice.
So, Shaun, I'm curious what your atmospheric notes would be for this beverage.
If you listen to the last cast, we're going to bring in this reoccurring theme where Shaun talks about the terroir of his life when it comes to the beverages we're having.
This is the Evening Star Lounge in Niagara Falls.
Ooh.
Right, my band and I played some gigs back in the day, and this would be the flavor of the stage.
Ooh, you often licked stages.
Well, just you know when you smell something deeply enough that you get the taste of it in your mouth,
Sure.
and it refuses to leave over time. This is the Evening Star stage.
So, 2 quick thoughts here. You can tell from the name Evening Star Lounge that this place was fucking classy as
Oh
shit.
man,
Oh, yeah.
black tie only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Velvet curtains.
And second thought, for listeners of the show, if you can find footage of Shaun's band playing, Adam and I would sure love to see it.
Yeah.
It might exist, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I will jump on your bandwagon. This is the Elmwood Lounge at the end of the night watching Lou Diamond Phillips singing in front of me for one of his last shows.
Ooh, Lou Diamond Phillips.
Damn.
Wait a minute, that's an actor, isn't it?
Did I just make a drunk mistake?
I think
Possibly.
You're thinking of Lance Diamond.
I'm going to look it up now. Buffalo singer, Buffalo famous, let's see. Lance
I'm gonna go on the record and
Diamond.
say it's Lance Diamond.
Fuck, it was Lance Diamond.
Yeah!
You got it.
'Cause
Yeah.
I always thought he was Neil Diamond.
Yeah. Lou, again, I just did Lou Diamond and Lance Diamond Phillips. Lou Phillips and Lance Diamond became one person to me. Okay, well, that's what it is still.
That's another Adam Portmanteau.
There you go. And now you don't know.
We need a jingle for that, for sure.
Yep.
We definitely reached the second cast moment, too, where everyone's loose and giggly.
Yep, I love it. And we finally worked through the kinks where I say the correct title for today's cast. So we're on it. All right, so we are moving on from the drink. Find yourself some Max Ice, though. Go to the nearest NOCO. Go to your nearest Citgo.
Kenyon's Variety.
Harrison's, whatever you got near you.
Yes, and
Wawa.
ask the helpful beverage specialist.
I believe they're called Cicerones.
The beer dispenser.
Just say, sir, I've been recommended this beverage. I believe it is called Labatt Max Ice, and he will certainly produce it for you quickly.
It comes in a slitting black can of elegance.
Indeed. I'm looking for only the 16 ounces, though, sir. Nothing less.
I'm looking for something that tastes like the Evening Star Lounge in Niagara Falls.
Not just the lounge, but I want it to taste like the stage.
Oh, because the floor has a very definite, different flavor than the stage.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
You get too close to that floor and you're gonna retch.
You don't want nothing
Stage
to
is
do with
fine.
it.
At least music was happening on the stage.
That's right.
That's true. That's true.
It's part of history.
All right, so we are talking about Blade Runner 2049 with Ryan Gosling. There we go. I do it every time. He became
Baby
Ryan
Hercules.
Reynolds, Baby Hercules.
He was the young Hercules on TV.
You know, it should help me, but it doesn't, unfortunately. You got to just say, like, Deadpool or The Notebook.
Wait a minute, how many references to Kevin Sorbo's Hercules have we made now on this cast?
Enough that I followed. I do love, that was a thing in my house, Kevin Sorbo's Hercules. It was right before Xena Warrior Princess.
Exactly. If somebody wants to go back through the catalog and find out how many times we have referenced the Sorbo or Hercules or the Xena Warrior Princess on this cast, please hit us up on the socials and tell us how many times we've done that. I would love to know.
We'll send you a sticker.
Eventually.
Sometime in the future.
We'll get there. All right, so Blade Runner 2049 follows after Harrison Ford's Blade Runner, the early 80s, I believe it's 82 film, that is more closely associated with Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And 2049 picks up where Blade Runner left off. My question for you guys is, what does it add to Blade Runner that it was missing?
That's a good question.
Because I had actually watched Blade Runner 2049 first on accident, as I was telling Mike earlier, and then went back and watched Blade Runner, and I'm like, oh shit, now this makes more sense. But I know you guys probably had the correct experience of Blade Runner and then 2049.
Yeah, I had seen Blade Runner multiple times over the years, and I'm a huge fan of that movie. I believe it's one of the great ones. And so I went in prepared, to be. I was telling myself, like, keep your expectations low for 2049. I was like, just see if you enjoy it, but certainly don't expect it to be in the same realm as the original. I was, very impressed with it when I saw it. I am not prepared to say that it's better than Blade Runner, but I am prepared to entertain the thought that it might be as good, which is actually quite a statement coming from me, who wouldn't have ever thought that was possible. I was very impressed with it, and I watched it a second time preparing for this podcast, and I still believe that.
Okay. Shaun?
I want to first preface this by saying I did not give out one of my patented fuck yous in the last cast.
No, we withheld. So it can't, unless we're like just treating Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep as a palate cleanser from Termination Shock, in which case it does not deserve a fuck you. Are you going to use it here?
Very possibly, because I could not be more on the opposite side of the spectrum than Mike is right now.
Oh, no. So this is our typical alignment where Mike and I are on the same page, and Shaun is contra to us.
Someone has to be the contrarian.
That's fine.
You're basically, we're going to be like color commentating this, Adam and I, like listeners at home. Stay tuned. Shaun looks like he may be preparing to go to the patented fuck you.
Watch out. He's got the Max Ice in his hand. Get down. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. So, obviously, I'm into nerdy shit. And obviously, Blade Runner has its place in the pantheon of must-watch sci-fi movies.
Yeah, great. Next question.
Sure.
And I came into it years ago with that sensibility to it. And I think I mentioned in the last cast that I convinced my wife to watch it with me. I'm like, this is going to be great. It gets such high reviews and everything. And I got to watch it. And I watched it. But I did not watch it uninterrupted because I kept falling asleep. It was dreadful, in my opinion.
Nearly dropped my beer.
I'm sorry. Ridley Scott has done so much better work than that. And the second one, I love Denis Villeneuve. I love him. And the movie visually, cinematically is awesome. But again, I feel like it's just not what it's made out to be. It's like they insist upon themselves.
There you go.
And I'm not here for that.
Not too many. He's going to catch up to you from the last cast.
I'm not here for that.
Yeah, you're right. I gotta be careful.
So, I guess, can you expand on that idea of insisting upon itself? I know, obviously, we joke about that with some films because of a certain director of our friends, but...
Yeah, like Blade Runner, okay.
Sure.
Blade Runner was universally hated by people when it came out. Pardon?
Are we okay, do you think?
Yeah, he can mow his lawn, it's fine. Blade Runner, bad, right? Like, it came out and people said it was bad. It took years and a director's cut for it to hit, and people were like, oh, wait a minute.
And the final cut.
Actually, yeah, it took a bunch of re-edits and no, fuck that noise. Fuck that noise. If you got to do that kind of work to get over the hump of people accepting your film, then there's something fundamentally incorrect here. The Denis Villeneuve, again, it's basically just building upon this already house that's been built on sand. It's just there's something not working. I don't know. And I don't think my bona fides are in question here as an appreciator of good film and story.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, fuck you, Adam.
Just kidding. That's fine. I'm trying to provoke one now.
I will say that they weren't in question.
But again, we can disagree on things too. That's all
of course
part of taste.
can.
But there's just I'm not seeing it, and I feel like it's almost like it's like pretending at being good film. Does that make sense to you guys?
2049 or the original Blade Runner? Okay.
They are pretending at being something beyond what they are. And I guess when you talk about sci-fi, fantasy, superhero, whatever, there's a certain level you can get up to with the seriousness before you've got to be like, all right, fuck, get over yourself. And I feel like if you go too far over the limit, it becomes a parody. And for me, watching the original Blade Runner, and I'm just going like, this is an art house, like, college students, like, movie. This is THX 1138 or whatever the hell that movie is. This is somebody trying to...
It's Mystery Science Theater 3000 without the overcap.
Not schlocky like that,
okay.
Though. It's like someone who... I said it insists upon itself as a joke, but I kind of mean it. It's this idea that it's like it takes itself too damn seriously.
Okay.
And for me, that's a deal breaker. I need levity, at least a little bit. And I don't think either one of those films, outside of Harrison Ford's roguish charm...
Right.
And in the second movie, he has no roguish charm anymore because that died in him a long time ago.
Right.
When you get to be a certain age, yeah.
Yeah, but without that, like, that quality, it becomes grueling. It becomes like I have to do this because I have to do this.
Right.
I don't watch it because I want to watch it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that.
This is a film. Both of these films are films that, when I say that to me, they're masterpieces. I also understand that I couldn't put those films in front of just anybody and get the same reaction. There's certain movies where I'm like, if you watch, fucking, I don't know, Goodfellas, and you tell me, like, this is a fucking piece of shit and I hate this movie, then I'm like, well, you're a fucking piece of shit. And
we're no longer friends.
And I hate you,
Yeah.
But with this movie...
For the record, I love Goodfellas.
Yeah. Yes, for the record, Shaun. Shaun is not a piece of shit, and I do not hate him.
Thanks, Mike!
The band's going to stay together.
But if I put this movie in front of people and they come back with this reaction, I'm not surprised by that. And I don't think it's wrong. I think it's a matter of your personal taste. I mean, for me, I've always been a sucker for noir shit. Like those dark, gritty, urban, jazzy detective-ish crime stories are like, I will eat that shit up all day. The very old, going back to Humphrey Bogart, all the way up to like shit coming out today, including Blade Runner 2049. I love the noir aesthetic. And then when you combine that with the themes that Blade Runner explores, the aesthetic of the film and the themes of the film, and then on top of that, you make it a slow simmering, slow burning, brooding thing, which I am also openly a sucker for. To me, you've got a masterpiece.
This hit all of Mike's feels.
That's
for
right.
sure.
I mean, I am the target audience for Blade Runner.
You know, and you say the way you outline it, I love that kind of shit too. But I don't know what it is about when you add the sci-fi layer to it that it just sort of takes me out of it. And I don't. It's got to be, like you said, it's a personal thing. It clearly is just not scratching my itch. But it's fuck, I had a thought there, and the lawnmower like brutalized
And the Blue
out of my
Jays.
head.
Yeah.
But I feel like the noir part of it is great. I like that aesthetic part.
That Blue Jay is fucking pissed at us.
This Blue
It's
Jay.
mad.
And this
Fuck you, Blue Jay.
this groundsman, let's say,
Yeah, sure.
will
Groundskeeper Willie.
they have no idea that they're about to become massive celebrities
No.
indirectly.
Listened to by hundreds of people. Yeah,
But,
you know, it's interesting. Like, so I am, in theory, I love. Mike is pretending to throw a rock at the Blue Jay. In theory, I love the brooding. I love the plotting. Get me there. I really did love the tonal quality of 2049.
Yeah, I'll give you that too.
It is exactly what I was hoping for when I came to a movie going, okay, it's Denis Villeneuve, Hans Zimmer is on it, Ridley Scott executive produced it, this is what we're going to get. And my problem was probably more of a problem of life circumstance. So I was just super busy. If I had 6 hours to watch it twice, I would have loved it. I watched it once while otherwise preoccupied occasionally with some other things, but I really did love a lot of it. Having come to it after reading the original book and the whole plot of 2049 being, can androids evolve to the point of carrying children? And Jared Leto being pissed because his androids can't have babies. You know, I hear Rachel Rosen from the first book in the back of my head.
Yeah.
You know, I can't have kids. Is that going to be is that a problem? Does that make me less of a desirable thing to you? And Deckard fucks her. And then having come to this book, I loved it. I loved the fact that orange was like the predominant tonal color for everything. Everything was like atomic orange.
Yep.
When I think of the movie, that's what I see, is David Bautista covered in orange dust at all times. And I think that felt absolutely right for the book. At a certain point, though, I did lose heart for a little bit. You know, I lost my drive to finish it, except for the fact that we said we were going to finish it. And the worst part is that came at like hour 2.5.
Yeah.
I had like half an hour left or 40 minutes left, whatever it was. So perhaps in different circumstances, I would have been much more enthused. That's just a me problem. That's not a movie problem.
Yeah, I think it's like that with a lot of things that are big and that take their time, and we don't live in that world right now.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I the first time I saw this was a couple years ago, and it was late in a summer evening. The rest of the house was asleep, so I had nowhere to be and nothing to do. And when I watched it again for this podcast, it was time that I had made a point of carving out to watch uninterrupted. And if you don't watch it in those circumstances, it's not the type of movie you can drift in and out of. Like you have to be, you have to be immersed in it. One of the things that impressed me the most about the film is that it exists at all. Because to me, it's astonishing that even as late as 1982, they could make Blade Runner. That's just not what movie audiences are designed for anymore. The ability to sit there for an extended period of time and watch something that really takes its time, developing ideas.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was made in 1982 with as bankable as a star as Harrison Ford was at that time.
He was big then. He was right around all of the Indiana Jones stuff. and just after Star Wars.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
so
he was at his height.
That's always impressed me to begin with. When the previews, first started dropping for 2049, I remember thinking, like, you can't do this now. You can't do this in, the second decade of the 2000s, because audiences will still go back and watch Blade Runner because it's a classic, but they're not going to do it again. So whatever they've produced here, I'm like, it's not going to be the same thing. And as I was watching it that first time, I was like, holy fuck, it is the same thing. Like, they literally
I felt
kept that same aesthetic. They kept that super slow burning, like, pacing to the whole thing. And the movie was critically raved about, but commercially did not do that well.
As is always, you don't get both, you get one or the other.
It does not surprise me at all, but I'm so happy that the movie exists. Because, again, if that is your thing, if that's your jam, if the first Blade Runner is a thing you like, then this is the next Blade Runner you wanted.
All right, so I wanted to make space for some of the maybe inconsistencies that we see in the movie here. And I want to pass it off to Shaun in that way, because we were just talking about things like the makeup of the androids in 2049 versus Blade Runner versus the book itself. And then some of the other things you noticed that kind of bothered you, Shaun. What were you thinking about?
So this is part of my problem with it is, I don't know if you guys have listened to other casts, but I have a really hard time turning off my analytical mind sometimes. And the suspension of disbelief is difficult for a lot of things. Someone's on the phone too. But with this particular film, what got me was like in the book, and in the first one is way more ambiguous, but in the book it's like the idea that they're biological, yes, but they're also somewhat mechanical, digital creatures or whatever.
Yeah, Rachel Rosen in the book says that she can only live for like 2 years or 4 years total. She was 2 years old; she could live for 2 more.
Right, and there, like in the movie, they talk about this. Like there are certain like restrictions on them, others that are unrestricted or experimental. The Nexus 6 versus Nexus 7, and the 8s and all that stuff. But there was always the implication in Dick's novel that they were like wetware with a hardware interface. If that makes sense.
Kind of like Ex Machina, where they had like a wetware on top of the mechanical
like the Terminator kind of a thing. Right,
Terminator,
like
sure.
But then you get into Blade Runner and then 2049, where it becomes much more of like no, they're 100% organic. And I think Ridley Scott has actually gone on the record of saying like, no, they are 100% organic creatures. They're just made. And to me, that becomes way more problematic when you think about the idea of retiring them and like, in what universe do human beings just let something like this happen? Right? Like, we live in a world where, and I get it at different times and things, but people would be up in arms over any kind of biological creature being retired, using that euphemism, and what Deckard is actually doing. And then, like, other little nitpicky things I got to get into. And I agree with you guys. It's a beautiful looking film. Both of them are beautiful films. They do amazing work cinematography wise. It's
Denis Villeneuve.
They are, him and Scott. Like, they're just sights to behold. Absolutely. But things start to fall apart for me with, like, one little example I'll make is the part where they're looking for, or I think Gosling's character, Kay, is looking for his history or looking for the past to try and find out if he's the child of replicants or if it's his, something else or whatever. And he goes to find Deckard in the atomic zone or whatever it is. Where like
Las Vegas. That's what I pictured it
zone.
as. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, there's a heat signature in there. Oh, he's keeping bees or something. But like they go out of their way of showing how nothing survives in this world. Like everything is dead. And like, so what are the bees living on? Right? Because they made a big thing about the tree, and he finds that one little plant growing, and obviously there's symbolism in this. And there's the idea, like the ossuary box is buried under the tree, and the real wood of the horse, and all those little things. And it's like, oh, he's keeping bees. Well, are they fucking replicant bees? Are they real bees? What are those bees pollinating?
That's the question, because he also sticks his hand in there, and they don't sting him. So
we're led to believe that, yeah.
And then there's the whole thing a few minutes later where he's like, is your dog real? And he goes, why don't you ask him? I don't think that the movie answers the question. I think the movie just poses the question.
But, okay, I get it. I feel like sometimes I love the mystery box idea of sometimes just saying, hey, you draw your own conclusions.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's no payoff for that unless there's a bit more of not say direction. Like, I don't need my hand held. I don't need to be told what to think. but I don't also want a mystery for the sake of a mystery. You know, that's J.J.
Sure.
Abrams like hack shit. That's like, I'm going to give
That's
you
lost shit.
Yeah, I'm going to give you this thing. The purpose of it is just to get you to think. You know, it's like, no, if it's purposeful, right? And the only purpose I can envision for like the bees, for instance, is that it pinpoints Deckard's location for him on his little like predator vision thing or whatever it was he was using. That's it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, what is the point of having that?
So the only thing I can think of, because I'm always trying to like retcon these things, because that's my job, is that at the end of Do Androids Dream, they have a mechanical toad. Deckard thinks it's real until he brings it back to his wife, and she's like, "Boop! No, there's a little switch down here," and she orders all the flies and stuff. So the fact that she orders flies makes me think that it would be reasonable for him to order mechanical bees.
But
Is it a bit of a stretch? Sure.
Would your film viewer know that? Like,
No.
that's the thing.
No, and the thing between Do Androids Dream and Blade Runner, the original, is that Philip K. Dick always said that it's a conversation between the two. He would never do a novelization of Blade Runner. He explicitly said, like, I'm not doing that shit. And he had a lot of problems with the original screenplay of it and the original script of it.
I see that.
That somebody else had to come in and rewrite it. And he's like, okay, you've like revivified this. I can do this now, but it's not my book.
Yeah.
It's in the world of my book. And I always saw Blade Runner 2049 as similar. It's in the world of androids, but not of Philip K. Dick.
It's an interesting way to like parse your headcanon, I guess.
You
As
know,
much
I
as you
parse
can.
words.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
But the other thing is, it's like, all right, here's another little nitpicky thing. What the fuck is a Blade Runner? What the fuck does that even mean? What does Blade Runner mean? Think about this for a second.
There's a lot of where that came from online.
Please explain this to me, because I am ignorant of what a Blade Runner. It's a person who hunts down replicants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dick
Yeah.
never made up that point.
No.
This is a pure fantasy of like Ridley Scott or whoever wrote this thing, but it sounds awesome. That sounds like a video game from 1986. Oh, we're gonna play Blade Runner now. Like it's a heavy metal sounding name. It's awesome. Right?
You ready for this?
Give it to me.
It's another druggy writer. It's William S. Burroughs.
Ooh, Burroughs.
So he
Is this something about like cocaine?
it's a science fiction novella from Burroughs in '79. I don't know more than that, but I do remember when I was looking up the lightning round questions, Burroughs came up a lot. Who, I mean, nothing against like recreational drug use, whatever is your thing. But Burroughs and Philip K. Dick were both known to be heavy users. And I don't know if that's the connection or what it is,
But
but
that doesn't fit with
Burroughs certainly
the.
was.
It doesn't fit
Jesus,
with
yeah.
It doesn't fit with the idea of like, oh, why not call them like Hunter or something or
Yeah.
whatever? Blade Runner.
Andy Retires. Well, that's a shitty name. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. There's no like, there's no logistics things to it. There's no logic to it. Sorry, it's just to me, it's like I need that.
Yeah.
I need a little bit more like why this is what it is. I need to know why the androids have biological brains and it's okay to kill them. I need to know why they're called Blade Runners. Like that kind of thing, to me, I love that level of world building.
Yeah, so my take on all that is, and I think this is something that the movie engages with directly in the character of, what's the character's name? Jared Leto is the actor.
It's Jared Leto. I can never think of anything else but Jared Leto.
Yeah.
But he says, you know,
Morbius?
in one of his opening monologues, you know, he talks about how no great civilization has, you know, arisen and no great accomplishments have been, you know, achieved by human civilizations without there being some sort of forced labor class.
Slavery, yeah.
Yeah, he says it exactly
and he
after the
then
birth of
he
one of
uses
his
the-
babies.
Right, and he uses the word slavery in that. And then he bemoans that he cannot make enough of these things.
Yeah.
And so if the question is, you know, why is it okay for them to assassinate something that's essentially living flesh, and why would humans sanction that and be okay with that? I think that's exactly the question that I don't want to get into the book here because I don't think the book goes nearly as deeply, but the movies,
No.
I think for sure, are actually asking that exact question. At the end of the first Blade Runner movie, what has been a terrifying antagonist. I wish the actor's name would come to me
Hauer.
right now, but over this Blue Jay, I can't fucking think about anything.
Rutger Hauer.
That's
Yeah.
the actor.
Yeah.
He's
Rutger
like
Hauer.
the Swedish actor.
Roy
right?
Beatty, yeah.
Yeah.
So he plays Roy Beatty. And, he's terrifying the entire movie until the final moments. And suddenly it makes this transformation into this, Miltonian, like, I rebelled against my creator because I wanted to become like my creator. And for that, I'm being punished. And he becomes this, like, sacrificial lamb. They make him this, like, angelic, like, fallen angel imagery, right?
Yeah.
And, Jesus.
Well,
He
literally Jesus.
drives the knife, or the nail into his hand. Right? So it's pretty upfront. It's not too subtle. And, this comes up a lot in the second movie as well. I mean, Jared Leto's character looks like some sort of fucking satanic character.
Yeah.
And he talks
Straight back, long
slavery.
hair, who's very pale.
Yeah. Luciferian.
And so then you start, when he says these things about, you need slaves in order for humanity to advance. And I think he says, I'm paraphrasing, but something like, we lost our appetite for slavery or something like that, he says.
Yeah.
And you start thinking about, like, I mean, like, when you look at, like, the great, like, South American civilizations of, hundreds or thousands of years ago, and, like, how did they build their cities and their great pyramids? Like, it was slavery and human sacrifice. And how did the Egyptians build their pyramids and their cities? It was slavery
and human sacrifice.
You come up to, like, ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and, you start, I mean, anybody who's seen the movie Gladiator, knows what, like, the gladiatorial arena was.
Yeah.
And that's in the
Scott.
same movie as the guy goes, who knew that men could build such things, when he beholds Rome in the Colosseum for the first time, right? So it's that thing where it's like, no, humans do this. It's not like, would humans allow this? It's that humans have done this for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And the fact that they make them flesh instead of machine complicates that question even further, because it does force you to ask, like, is that what we've done for thousands of years? Like, we've somehow dehumanized them, even though they're literally the same thing as we are.
Yeah. I will say that the hanging plastic embryonic sac that they drop from in 2049 did help dehumanize them to me, until I saw Jared Leto interact with all of the androids. Like, there's that one scene where he's like, I'm unable to make an android who's got a womb. It's empty, barren, and he slashes her right where the ovaries would be. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Like, that humanized the replicants or the androids for me in a way that, like, the book or Blade Runner, the original, never did. In no uncertain terms, for sure. And that might be just a function of having the technological ability to do that via, computer or however they did that.
And I'm actually just thinking of this as you're talking, but it's interesting that he's more machine than they are in that sense. Yeah. Like, he's blind, and he has, like, biological.
He's got implants.
He has implants that allow him to, like, see through these cameras that are hovering around the room, and he's actually more of a machine than the so-called machines are themselves.
Yeah,
well, that's humanity, man.
I have no problem with the lessons that these things have, or the questions they raise. All of that is interesting. I just feel like the vehicles that deliver those ideas are deeply flawed. And for me, it makes the message become problematic.
Less of the gift and more of the packaging.
Yeah.
Sure.
Indeed.
I can buy that.
Quick side note, I do, while we're on the character who I've been quoting heavily from here, I didn't actually realize that this was Jared Leto. I had to look it up after I watched the movie.
No, I didn't.
And he's
really?
I did not see it was Jared Leto.
I thought he was fucking brilliant. Like, he was a horrifying character without ever raising his voice one time. Like, there's that point where Harrison Ford says to him, obviously you've never had children. And he, like, immediately leans forward in his chair with this sinister grin and goes, "Oh, I have millions." And I'm just like, "Oh, I got goosebumps." Like, this is fucking horrifying.
When Leto was on, Leto's amazing.
Yeah. This is an example of on.
Is he going to be in Dune Part 2?
I haven't looked yet.
He's worked with Villeneuve before, obviously, and I wonder. I think he might have been on the cast slate. We'll have to look into that when it comes time.
Yes. Check out the socials. We'll follow up on the socials here.
He is a fantastic actor when he is given something to work with.
Yeah.
Some things like Mobius or Morbius or whatever, not so much.
Well, yeah, and that's not his fault. That's the script's fault.
Or the Joker. That's also.
All right, we can do a hot take of that later, but that's not for us right now, because I actually really appreciated the Joker.
What?
Yeah.
Leto's Joker?
Stop it. That's fine.
Oh, my
Yep.
God.
It's cool. We can disagree. We're still friends.
We should do a Joker cast, right? Because I have great fondness for Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. I feel like you told me you're not as big of a fan, Shaun.
I think Heath Ledger is the end. He's the final word in Joker portrayals.
And you're a Leto man, Adam. So
I'm not just I'm not exclusively a Leto man, just to be sure, because like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker really struck a lot of nerves for me.
Yeah.
I have issues with the treatment of people with mental illness in Joaquin Phoenix's version. That was just my brief.
So
also a Jack Nicholson fan.
Sure.
Well, yeah.
Sure.
He's the OG.
Yeah.
But fans at home, stay tuned for Joker. That will be an upcoming hot debate cast.
I think we're doing it. We
Put
just
it on our
penciled it in.
long-term list there. We're planned out through next February.
There you go.
We're booked.
Yeah.
Speaking of booked, y'all ready for the lightning round?
Yes, sir.
Do it.
This spans both Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049.
Right.
So
Here for
if
that.
you've never paid attention to the lightning round, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. We have 3 questions. First to ring in gets to answer the question. If you answer it correctly, you get a point. What do the points mean? Essentially nothing except for ego and maybe how you perceive yourself. So, first question. Rumor has it that Harrison Ford in Blade Runner blamed this for his lackluster acting.
He was in an airplane accident around this time when he was filming the Star Wars movie, so I'm going to guess that.
Oh, that is not what I had seen
Fuck.
in my research.
Oh, well.
Sean? There you go. Ding.
I will go with he was under the weather and was ill.
You took the easy way out. The look I got from Sean.
Tell me I'm wrong, Adam.
You are wrong. So,
Fuck.
according to multiple sources, he really was pissed off at the voiceover that was added to the original cut of Blade Runner.
Right.
Oh, fuck,
He
you-
felt like he
oh.
was following the direction of the voiceover and not his acting.
Yes.
So he was like, fuck y'all, I'm following the voiceover. Fuck it. You don't like it, whatever. So when they removed it in the director's cut and then subsequently the final cut, he felt pissed because his acting then did not follow what he wanted to do. He was following the voiceover that was
You're
thrown in
right.
for commercial
Gotcha.
audiences.
He's
pissed.
So my answer was way off then, because I thought you were talking about 2049.
No, I apologize. That was
And just
that
a
was
few
me.
years ago, he was
You're
in
right. He
that
was in that
accident.
airplane accident. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll call it a draw because that was a poorly asked question.
No, it wasn't.
Sean is pissed.
I just
No,
made
okay.
assumptions here, so.
Fine. Well,
You might need to come up with another
did
question.
you get a point there? No, you didn't either. So, all right. In Blade Runner, the original, what Stephen King movie was originally used in the ending?
Stephen King movie,
Correct.
not book.
Correct. Sean got in just barely first.
I'm going to go with Carrie.
That's incorrect.
All right.
I was going to say The Shining.
That is correct.
Yes!
Really?
I knew it.
I
knew it.
They used B.
Fuck you.
That's not a real. He knew it. They used B-roll from the end of The Shining at the end of the original ending for Blade Runner as they pan out of the scene.
How the fuck does that even happen?
I don't fucking know. I have no clue what would they use, the hotel?
Yeah.
Like what? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was agreed upon by Harrison Ford, Ridley Scott, everybody else.
Yes,
That is an odd deep cut.
I know.
I've
I
come
know.
across this many times in my Blade Runner scholarship. So
Indeed. I'm sorry that you have Blade Runner scholarship.
Oh,
no, don't be sorry.
I'll
It's-
take a point for that.
It's made me
go.
a very
Bing.
it's made me a very happy, satisfied man.
There you go. All right, last question is about
What a
the
sad, lonely man.
Aw. Last question is about the entire world. This film series is widely considered to be cursed. Why is that?
Cursed. Why is it considered cursed?
Sean.
Wild stab at it. Philip K. Dick put the Kavorka on it.
Ooh, he put the eye on it. No,
he,
that's
he
incorrect.
did the
Yeah.
eye.
The baba ganoush. No, that's a food.
Yeah.
Mike, you get a stab at it.
I dipped my balls in it.
I don't know. It's neither of the movies performed well originally commercially, but both have a good critical standing. And so they're loath to make a third one because they want to make money.
So that would make sense logistically, but not correct.
Ah,
So the most thorough answer is that any product that earned product placement in either of the two films went out of business almost immediately thereafter.
Really?
Bell Telephone in the first one. Coke did the Coke Free or Coke Zero
Coke 2?
immediately after. Was a terrible failure.
What about Budweiser?
And Johnny Walker.
Budweiser. Don't even get me started on Budweiser.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right? Johnny Walker's the one that escaped,
Okay.
but it didn't get the prominent product placement that the others did, and that's where they're saying like that's how it escaped. You see the back of the label,
You're
you don't
right.
see the full
as
label.
many times as I've seen this movie, I knew that Harrison Ford sipped scotch throughout it, but
Yeah.
I had to look it up for
Yeah.
this cast to find out it was Johnny Walker.
There is a Bell Telephone payphone that's featured in the original, and within 5 years, Bell Telephone is dead, split
That's
up.
interesting.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Real quick side note, totally unrelated, but I just want to say that we never even touched upon the Ana de Armas digital wife character from
No.
2049.
Yeah. This
And I just want to say that she is delightful.
So I
And
will
a
say,
fantastic actress.
very talented actress. Yes.
I do have a thing for digital surrogate partners, apparently, because between Ex Machina
Oh yeah.
and and her, and the literal film Her.
Yeah.
right? Like, I really am enticed by, like, how would humanity respond to realistic acting partners, even
Yeah.
though they're digital or some sort of, like, bag of soft plastics plus, software sort of thing. It's intriguing.
That was the most intriguing part of 2049, and I really appreciated they worked something in where it was cool because Kay, as a replicant, establishes a relationship with a digital woman, and there's all this like subtext to that, like, oh, you don't like real girls and all this other stuff, and then
Yeah.
she has to superimpose herself holographically over the real girl, and
Yeah.
then like
Turns out to be a replicant.
yeah,
Yeah.
She's part of that like revolution or whatever.
yeah, and then like the whole fact, like every time she goes to interact with him, she's like faking that she's touching him.
Yeah.
But he gets something out of that, which
Right.
I thought was kind of neat because he's a replicant, and
Yeah.
that was cool. But again, it's one of those loose threads that
Yeah.
just sort of is just left flapping
There's
in the
so
breeze.
much shit that we didn't get into because it would require like a
There's-
3-hour cast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
we're already
talking
at 45
about,
minutes,
I was talking
exactly.
about the Miltonian and all the like biblical angel symbolism in both films. We talked about how Roy Beatty looks like Christ at the end there.
Yeah.
And we talked about how Jared Leto looks like Satan. But we didn't even talk about like, I don't think we talked about how like, the whole like miracle conception thing is like a huge thing in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally,
Right off
like,
the bat, they're like, you've never
the
seen
Madonna.
a miracle. And then the whole movie is about like, oh, there was somehow a miracle baby. And he thinks
Yeah.
it might be him, but,
Yeah.
and there was that moment where he meets up with the Revolution, and she's like, "Oh, you thought it was
Right.
you."
We
Yeah.
all did.
Yeah.
Because it's in all of us. And then that turns out to be true, right? Because the one who it really was planting her memories in that.
And everybody around.
There's a lot of that, like, deep mythological shit that's in this movie.
But that was one of my other like big disconnects with the movie was if they're androids, then how do you biologically recreate a computer brain? Right? Like to me, that became the biggest problem. If they have a brain and they have human bodies, then
Right.
they're humans.
Well, this is why Shaun is our resident Tolkien scholar, because he needs everything explained back.
No,
like hundreds-
no.
300
No,
pages of how Mordor
I
exists.
don't
with appendices and
although I appreciate that kind of minutia, I don't need it. I just feel like you can't ignore it.
That's
like
fair.
if you're gonna make
Fair.
if you're
No,
gonna
I-
make a point of it, then you have to at least give me a tantalizing something to branch off onto.
Yeah.
Like make a throwaway line that talks about it.
right.
But you just like leave it hanging there. That to me is
Well,
problematic.
that's because Shaun, you're a dude who like works on cars and takes things apart, and I'm the kind of guy who's like, I'd rather like be in a shark attack than have to do any of that. So I just trust the filmmakers.
It's interesting.
They're like, oh, they can do
Yeah.
that. Oh, cool. All right.
It's funny because
And-
I can't empathize at that point of view. I just don't see it.
You don't pass the void comp test. You're done.
Shit, fuck, I'm a replicant.
And the interesting thing is, I am the middle
You will
ground.
not hear Shaun's voice the rest of this cast.
There you go. I just
been
laser tubed him. The interesting thing is, like, to hold double standards in the mind at one time, maybe even double think here. So if it's fantasy, I want it explained. I want to know where the goddamn hobbits came from. You didn't tell me. Fuck you. But if it's sci-fi, sure, fine. The progression of time, Murphy's Law, all of those things.
Yeah.
Not Murphy's Law. What's the law where it's like the power of a processor doubles every 6 months. That's a philosophical belief, and it actually turns out to be fairly true in computing. But in any case, like, I believe that the passage of time makes almost everything possible, unless it's back in Fantasyland.
Right.
You got dwarves, gnomes, orcs, and half orcs. No, you got to tell me how that works, which isn't fair. But
Yeah.
I'm a human.
Well, and I mean, there's hard sci-fi and there's soft sci-fi. I think those are the terms, right?
Yeah.
And hard sci-fi, like
Hard sci-fi is like The Martian, where you have to explain everything scientifically. Yeah.
And I think Blade Runner falls in the category of soft science, where it's about the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
The science is just a way of it's almost more fantasy in that sense.
Yeah.
In that it's more about the ideas and how the brains are created is. A question that those of us who aren't mechanically minded don't think to ask.
It's fair. And honestly, it's a place where, like, unfortunately fortunately for sci-fi, they get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Like NASA actually just included an X-Wing in the Aeronautics Museum because they're like, thank you for inspiring us. But nobody goes back to fantasy and says, thank you for inspiring us, Tolkien, with your orcs and your half-elves and all that shit. So maybe as a society, we have double standards when it comes to what we expect to be explained to us.
Tolkien gets no respect.
Nope. Nobody believes in him. Nobody likes him.
He's the Rodney Dangerfield of... It's a Davey reference.
No, I got you though. All right,
we really did kill Shaun here. That's
why it's so silent.
You're not hearing his voice.
Yeah. So then, I guess it's to you and me, Mike. Do we recommend Blade Runner 2049?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think it's a masterpiece. I thought the first film was a masterpiece. I love them both. I understand it's not going to fit everyone's taste profile, and I wouldn't show this movie to a lot of people who, I think you really need to get down with, like, slow-moving, brooding, philosophical movies to be able to enjoy this. But if that's your jam, then yeah, I 100% recommend it. I think it's great.
Corpse of Shaun?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm alive. Tolkien's awesome, by the way. And you know my take is, and this is going to be like a proceed at your own risk. If you are, like Mike said, if you're into the brooding, very cinematic, which is in its own right, worth watching it for. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great things to see.
Hans Zimmer.
The story itself, I'm like, well, I mean, if you're into it, you're into it. If you're not, then don't waste your time. It's one of those things where it's like you're either going to be deeply in love with what you're seeing, or you're going to go, what the fuck did I just do?
Sure.
And if you're like 20 minutes in, if you're sitting there going, what the fuck? Walk away. Walk away before you ruin it. And just...
That's a fair take.
That's fair, yeah.
If 20 minutes in... that is a good measure of what you're going to see for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
So. And if you've got that far and it's just not touching, go watch a Adam Sandler movie or something.
No, go fuck you. Don't watch an Adam Sandler film. But I will say, life is too short to watch something that you're not enjoying.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. If it's a 2.5 hour movie, 2:45, and you're not enjoying it, just walk away.
Go watch Ex Machina instead.
Go watch Ex Machina. Listen to our cast about it. But I will say that I'm a yes on this. In that I really appreciated the physicality with which Kay has to dismantle the androids that was not present in the book, right? Him versus David Bautista going through that wall in the first 10 minutes of the film hooked me. I was there for it. Yeah, I faded out after 2.5 hours, but I might fade out after 2.5 hours of anything. So that's not fair to use me as a barometer here, right? So we're going to say proceed at your own risk, I think is the rule here. And that's it for us today, fellow nerds. Join us next time for some newer fiction as we're reading The Three-Body Problem by
Jim Smith.
You know what? It's absolutely nothing against you, Mr. Liu, but Cixin season, I'm trying. I don't know. I'm going to look it up. No one has given me definitive pronunciation, and I want to get it right for you. So that's where we're at. The Three-Body Problem, widely hailed as a great piece of sci-fi. We're coming up with that next. All right. We'll see you then next time. And until then, enjoy your Max Ice. Cheers. Welcome to Nerds of the Old Republic, the podcast where we drink and discuss nerdy fiction and where we're not above shouting obscenities at deceased authors. That's right. I'm Adam.
I am Shaun.
And I'm Mike.
This is episode 3 of season 2 for this nerdy podcast of ours, and we are excited to be back. Today we're discussing one of the few Harrison Ford movies I haven't seen yet, Blade Runner.
Couple corrections.
Yeah, thank you. Was it 2 or 3? You want to just restart this whole thing?
It's 4.
This is
Fuck!
episode 4 of season 3.
No, keep rolling. This is
Fuck!
good. This is good.
And I believe we're not discussing a Harrison Ford movie, right? We're discussing a Ryan Gosling film.
2049?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch, let's just restart the whole
Denis
thing.
Villeneuve. All right, I'll just
Denis
do it.
Villeneuve.
So
Just do it again.
Shaun will edit